Okay, today's video tutorial is about analyzing Brutus' speech to the Plebeians. And the content for today's lesson is actually above and beyond English 10. We're going to be using AP language and composition words to analyze it. Quick recap then. Ethos means the ethical appeal. The key pronoun in an ethical appeal is I, usually meaning I believe and therefore I do such and such a logical actions according to my beliefs. Then logos is the appeal to logical reasoning. Brutus uses logical reasoning to prove his point. We'll see what his underlying reasonings are. He very seldom uses emotions, but we're going to talk about how using Rome or invoking Rome or patriotism is a pathological argument. He definitely, and really this is Shakespeare at work, this is an example of syntax. Syntax basically means analyzing sentence structure to figure out what their rhetorical effect is on the audience. And in particular, we're going to see in today's speech that Brutus uses anaphora, which is the repetition of the beginnings of sentences to get the audience's attention. We're also going to see that he's going to use antimetabole, which is basically you state one thing in one sentence, and then the following sentence is the not version of the first sentence. And so we'll take a look at where he does this. And then those are all examples of different parallel structures. So we're going to see what kind of use that syntax and the grammatical structures of sentence have on the intended audience for this. He also uses a logical fallacy, and in particular the two logical fallacies which I have gone over with my English 10 classes are the either or and the glittering generalities fallacy. Either or means that the argument is based upon it, the idea that you are either one thing or you're another, and there's no possible third or fourth or fifth option. The way that you beat the either or fallacy is that you present a third option. Glittering generalities then means to associate positive things with your argument that it's not necessarily associated with it. Like the Patriot Act, with the invocation of patriotism for an act that is probably one of the most unconstitutional things that have ever been passed. So here we are. This is actually the speech itself. Brutus starts off, he says, "Be patient till the last, Romans, countrymen, and lovers. Hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear." So already from the get-go, he is appealing to the fact that they are Romans and countrymen. This is a pathos argument. Pathos basically means emotions, and in this case, he's appealing to the idea of being patriotic. Be silent that you may hear. In other words, shut up. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to mine honor, that you may believe. Now this is an example of an ethical argument because he believes, and here we go, it's his, it's mine. He has been characterized in the course of this play as having lots of honor and being noble. So now he is using his own ethical appeal as an I am honorable and therefore you should believe me type of ethos argument. Censure me in your wisdom and awake your senses that you may the better judge. In other words, stop messing around and listen to what I say so that you can hear what I'm going to try to prove. Whoops, that's not what I want. So now here's the next part of the speech. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love to Caesar was no less than his. Once again, ethical argument. I loved Caesar. My love was greater and no less than anybody else. So with that being said, he is proving that he didn't kill Caesar because he hated Caesar. He killed Caesar because he was doing something good for Rome. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Now this is the example of antimetabole. Not that I loved Caesar, but that I loved Rome more. And that's a big deal because here it is. Parallel structure. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. So we have Caesar and Rome being compared and contrasted. That is antimetabole at work. Syntactical thing. Had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than that Caesar were dead to live all free men? Once again, parallel structure from one part of the sentence to the other. It's very parallel, and yet the use of the opposites of the two is the example of antimetabole. Now, we continue then with his speech. As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. Now, what we see here then is the repetition of as he, but as he. That is the example then of anaphora. Repetition of the beginning of the sentence that keeps the audience's attention. The only thing that changes is the tail end. As he did this, I did that. As he was fortunate, then I rejoiced. As he was valiant, I honored him. And notice the repetition of the word honor throughout the speech. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. And now this is where we use the anaphora, and this is why it's effective. Repetition, repetition, parallel structure, parallel structure, parallel structure. But then at the end, instead of something good like honor, or something like rejoice, or something like weeping for him, we have death. And that's exactly why the anaphora is effective. It's because you get to the final sentence in that fusillade of them, and the net result is something completely contrary to what was there before. Now, here we go. Once again, parallel structure. There are tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. And once again, this is the use of repetition, and it's also the use of parallel syntactical structures in order to prove his point. The tone of this, especially because of its tight logical formation, is it could be characterized as logical. We go from point A to point B consistently and often enough. Continue with the speech. Now, the next part, and this is why rhetorical questions are highly effective, especially if you don't answer them, which is the point of a rhetorical question. Who is here so base that would be a bondman? If any speak, for him have I offended. Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? Pathos. This is emotions. This is patriotism. Who would not want to be part of their country? And notice we still have parallel structure and anaphora at work. Who is? Who is? Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? And if any speak, for him have I offended. Repetition. Who is here so vile, as an evil, not to be trusted, that will not love his country? If any speak, for him have I offended. Now, logically speaking, this is fallacious. What he's saying in the either-or fallacy is, on one hand, you support what we did, and you are a Roman, or you are not a Roman. And that's the either-or fallacy at work. The other thing that he's doing is the glittering generalities. He invokes being a Roman with being positive for killing Caesar. So I'm going to draw my little dagger here that represents Caesar getting stabbed. And I'll put some blood on the dagger too, because that's always fun. If any speak, for him have I offended. We get to the final part then of his speech, which actually, then none have I offended. I have done no more to Caesar than you shall do to Brutus. And as somebody who studies dramatic irony, we know something he doesn't know. Brutus is going to die by the end of the play. And they're going to need him to die. The question of his death, and at this point, his, the antecedent of the pronoun his is Caesar. So the question of Caesar's death is enrolled in the capital, his glory not extenuated, as in we don't shorten the good things that he did, wherein he was worthy, nor his offenses enforced, for which he suffered death. That's a nice pathological appeal. Like, we got the reason. Caesar was a good person. We've got it recorded in the Capitol. And now here comes his body, mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death, shall receive the benefit of his dying, a place in the Commonwealth. Rhetorical question. As which of you shall not, as in your place in the Commonwealth, your money, your power, and citizenship, you're going to get some too. With this I depart. that as I slew my lover for the good of Rome, I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. And now we're back to the dramatic irony. Because we know by the end of the play, Brutus commits suicide with the very same dagger. In fact, the quote, I believe, goes, "Now, Caesar, be still. I killed thee not with half so good a will." And that's why Shakespeare, when he lays out the argument for Marcus Brutus, is a really, really awesome read. And it's a lot deeper than something at this simple 10th grade level. It included things like anaphora. It had a thesis, what killing Caesar was for the good of Rome. He had ethical appeals where he called upon his honor and therefore made him believable. He used logic, especially logical structures in the syntax of his sentences. Anaphora, antimetabole. He used appeals to pathos. He also used logical fallacies such as glittering generalities and the either-or fallacy. So that is an analysis of Brutus' speech to the plebeians. And if you see, the plebeians actually believed it. The only problem is that Antony's speech was better because Antony uses this more effectively. If he can get people to use their hatred, whoa, that's not what I wanted. Their hatred, their anger, if he can get them to feel bad for Caesar, there's the heart. If he can use the will of Caesar, he's going to win, which is actually what he did. So that's the analysis of Brutus' speech to the plebeians.